What would you do if someone offered you $1 million and you had to say no? That's exactly what happened to a single dad who spent his whole life fixing cars in a small, no-name garage. No fancy sign, no shiny showroom, just grease, tools, and a photo of his kid taped to his toolbox. One day, a powerful CEO walked in. She wasn't looking for just any mechanic. She was looking for someone to fix her father's old Porsche, a car that 5 other shops had already looked at. All 5 gave her the same answer, and all 5 were wrong. She was desperate. This wasn't just a car to her. It was the last piece of her father she had left. So she made an offer no one in their right mind would turn down. $1 million, just to fix one car. But here's the part that nobody saw coming. The real problem. The whole problem wasn't some expensive engine part. It wasn't a rebuild. It wasn't anything the other shops guessed. It was a $6 bolt. And when the single dad found it, he did something even stranger than fixing the car. He turned down the $1 million. Why would a struggling single father say no to $1 million? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly why, and it might just change the way you look at people who are easy to underestimate. Let me take you back a bit, so you understand who these 2 people really were before that $1 million offer ever happened. The mechanic's name doesn't matter yet. Let's just call him what everyone in his neighborhood called him. The guy who never says no to a hard job. He wasn't famous. He wasn't rich. He ran a small garage on the edge of town, the kind of place you'd only find if someone told you about it. He was raising his kid alone. No wife around help. Just him, a toolbox, and a photo of his daughter taped right where he could see it every time he leaned under a hood. He worked late most nights, not because he loved the hours, but because bills don't wait, and neither does a growing kid. He learned everything he knew from his own father. Late nights in a garage just like this one. Years ago, a much younger version of him watching an older man's hands move across an engine like he was reading a book only he could see. That memory stayed with him. It's part of why he never rushed a job. Every car that came through his door got treated like it mattered, because to him, it always did. Now, let's talk about her. She wasn't just any CEO. She'd built her career from nothing, clawed her way up, made hard decisions most people never have to make. But none of that mattered the day she pulled up outside that garage. Because that day, she wasn't CEO. She was just a daughter, holding on to the last thing her father left behind. The Porsche wasn't just a car to her. Her father had spent years restoring it himself, piece by piece, on weekends when she was growing up. It was the place they talked, the place he taught her things no boardroom ever could. And now that he was gone, that car was the closest thing she had left to hearing his voice again. She'd already taken it to 5 different shops, 5 different mechanics, each one with more experience, more certifications, fancier garages than this small one she was standing in front of now. And every single one of them told her the same thing. The engine was failing. It would cost tens of thousands of dollars to fix, if it could even be fixed at all. She didn't believe them, not because she knew anything about cars, but because something about their answers felt rehearsed, like they were all reading from the same page, and none of them had actually looked closely enough to know if that page was even right. So when someone mentioned this small garage and this quiet single dad who had a reputation for finding what other people missed, she decided to try one more time. She had no idea that decision would lead her to an answer nobody expected. Here's where things started to get heavier. When she brought the Porsche into the small garage, she wasn't expecting much, just another opinion. Maybe a 6th voice telling her the same thing the first 5 had already said. She stood there while he walked around the car slowly, running his hand along the hood the way you'd greet an old friend instead of inspecting a machine. He didn't say much at first. He just listened, really listened, in a way none of the other mechanics had bothered to do. She told him what the other shops said. Engine failure. A rebuild that would cost more than most people make in a year. Maybe even a total loss. He didn't argue with her. He didn't promise anything either. He just said one thing that stuck with her. Give me some time with it before you believe any of that. That's when she really opened up. She told him this wasn't about the money. She had more money than she'd ever need. This was about her father. He'd passed away almost a year ago, And this car was the last big piece of him she had left. Every scratch, every worn spot on the seat, he'd put there himself. Losing this car would feel like losing him all over again. That's when the offer came out. Not right away. Not as a bribe. It came out almost like a plea. I don't care what it costs. I don't care how long it takes. Fix this car, and I will pay you $1 million. For a second, neither of them said anything. A number like that doesn't just sit in a small garage every day. It hangs there in the air, heavy, impossible to ignore. He'd have been lying if he said the number didn't hit him. $1 million could change everything for him. His daughter's future. This garage. Every worry he carried home with him every single night. Gone in one signature. But something about this whole situation bothered him. 5 expert mechanics, all agreeing on the same expensive diagnosis. For a car that, when he really looked at it, didn't seem to be behaving the way a truly broken engine should behave. He asked her one question before she left that day. Did any of them actually take the engine apart, or did they just run tests and give you a guess? She didn't have an answer, because now that she thought about it, she wasn't sure anyone actually had. That question sat with him the entire night. Long after she left, long after his daughter had gone to bed, he stood in his garage staring at that Porsche, feeling like everyone else had been looking at this problem the wrong way from the very beginning. That night, after his daughter was asleep, he went back out to the garage. Just him, one work light, and the quiet hum of the fridge in the corner, where he kept cold water for long nights like this one. He didn't start the engine right away. He didn't hook up any machines either. He just sat there for a while, looking at the car the way you look at an old photograph, trying to notice the small details everyone else rushed past. He thought about what she'd said. 5 mechanics. 5 different opinions that all somehow landed on the exact same answer. In his experience, that almost never happened. Real problems usually had a little disagreement attached to them. This felt too clean, too convenient. So he decided to start from zero. Forget every report the other shops gave her. Forget the number they quoted. He was to treat this car like nobody had ever touched it before. He opened the hood and just looked. No tools yet. Just his eyes moving slowly across every wire, every hose, every connection. His dad used to tell him something when he was a kid, learning in a garage just like this one. The engine will show you exactly what's wrong, if you're patient enough to actually watch it instead of guessing. He remembered that voice clearly, even all these years later. It's strange how a memory like that can show up right when you need it most. Around midnight, he finally started testing things. Small things, basic connections, places most mechanics skip, because they seemed too simple to be the actual problem. He wasn't in a rush. He wasn't thinking about the $1 million anymore. He was thinking about the puzzle in front of him. He called his daughter's babysitter early the next morning, an old family friend who helped out when jobs ran long, and told her he might not be home until late again. Then he went right back to it. Hour after hour, he traced wires by hand, checked grounding points, looked at things a computer diagnostic machine would never even flag, because computers only look for what they're programmed to look for. They don't notice what doesn't add up. But he did. By the second day, something small caught his eye, a single connection point, tucked away in a spot most people would never think to check. It looked fine at first glance. A little dirty, maybe a little worn, but nothing that would normally raise a red flag, except it was in exactly the kind of spot his father used to warn him about. The small stuff hides in plain sight. That's why everybody misses it. He leaned in closer, wiped away some old grime, and there it was, a tiny, corroded bolt, holding a connection that fed directly into the car's electrical system, barely bigger than his thumbnail, worth maybe $6 at any hardware store. But that one small rusted bolt was quietly causing a chain reaction to the entire system. Bad connection, faulty signals, the kind of issue that could easily trick 5 different diagnostic tests into thinking the whole engine was failing, when really, the engine had barely been the problem at all. He sat back on his stool and just stared at it for a long moment, somewhere between relief and disbelief. All that fear, all that heartbreak she'd carried around for months, all those expensive quotes. It all came down to one tiny $6 bolt that 5 professionals had walked right past, He didn't call her right away, not because he wanted to keep her waiting, but because he wanted to be completely sure before he said anything. He replaced that small corroded bolt with a new one, cleaned the connection point, double-checked every wire around it, just in case there was something else hiding nearby. Then came the moment of truth. He climbed into the driver's seat, the same seat her father used to sit in, and turned the key. The engine coughed once, then it caught, and then it settled into a smooth, steady hum, like it had never had a problem in the first place. He sat there for a second, just listening to it run. Then he picked up his phone and called her. He didn't lead with the big news. He just asked her to come by the garage when she had time. No details. No hints. She showed up less than an hour later, already bracing herself for bad news, expecting to confirm what the other 5 had already told her. Instead, he walked her over to the car, popped the hood, and pointed to a small piece sitting on a rag on his workbench. This was the problem, he said. The whole problem. She stared at it, confused. It looked like nothing. A tiny piece of metal, barely worth mentioning. That's it? She asked. That's what everyone said would cost tens of thousands of dollars to fix? He nodded. 5 people looked at the big picture and missed the small piece holding it all together. Sometimes that's exactly how these things go. Then he asked her to get in. She sat in the driver's seat, hands resting on the wheel her father used to hold, and he told her to start it. The engine turned over instantly, smooth, steady, alive, in a way it hadn't been in months. Her hands started shaking on the wheel. She wasn't just hearing an engine run. She was hearing her father's car come back to life, the same sound she remembered from being a little girl, riding beside him with the windows down. For a moment, she wasn't a CEO sitting in a garage. She was just someone's daughter, hearing her dad again in the only way she still could. She sat there for a while, letting the engine idle, wiping her eyes when she thought he wasn't looking. When she finally stepped out, she reached for her checkbook. $1 million, she said, just like I promised. He shook his head. I can't take that. She looked at him, stunned. Why not? You earned it. You found something 5 experts missed. He rubbed the back of his neck, choosing his words carefully, because this wasn't $1 million problem. It was a $6 bolt and a few hours of paying attention. If I take that money, I'm not fixing your dad's car anymore. I'm just taking advantage of how much you loved him. She didn't know what to say. Nobody had ever turned down that kind of money in front of her before, not for any reason. He nodded toward the photo taped to his toolbox. His daughter, smiling, missing her 2 front teeth. I've got a kid to raise. I'm not going to teach her that you take everything you can get just because someone's hurting enough to offer it. For the first time since she'd walked into that garage days earlier, she didn't see a mechanic in front of her. She saw someone with more integrity in one small decision than most people show in a lifetime. She didn't leave that garage feeling like the story was over. If anything, it felt like it was just getting started. A fair price is a fair price, he told her. Parts, labor, the hours he put in over those 2 long days. That's all he would take. She tried to push back, tried to insist, but he wouldn't budge. So instead, she found another way to thank him, one that didn't feel like charity to either of them. She started telling people about him, not in some big flashy way, just quietly, the way word spreads when something feels real. Friends, colleagues, people in her circle who own cars worth more than most houses. Every one of them heard the same thing from her. There's a small garage on the edge of town. Go there before you go anywhere else. The owner will tell you the truth, even when the truth is smaller and cheaper than you expected. Slowly, his little garage with no fancy sign started getting busier. Not because he changed anything about how he worked, but because people finally found out he'd been doing it right the whole time. For her, something else changed too. Every time she got behind the wheel of that Porsche, she wasn't just driving a car anymore. She was hearing her father again, feeling closer to him in a way she hadn't felt since he passed. And she knew exactly who made that possible. Not the shop with the biggest name, not the most expensive quote, just one honest man who cared enough to look closer. 2 people, 2 very different lives. Both of them had lost a father. Both of them found a small piece of healing in the most unexpected place, a rundown garage and a $6 bolt. And maybe that's the real lesson hiding underneath all of this. The biggest problems in life aren't always the ones that need the most money thrown at them. Sometimes they just need someone willing to slow down, pay attention, and actually care enough to look for the truth instead of the easy answer. That single dad didn't become a millionaire that day, but he taught a lot of people something money can't buy. That doing the right thing, even when it costs you, is worth more in the long run than any check ever could be. If you've ever had someone show up for you when you least expected it, someone who did the right thing even when no one would blame them for doing otherwise, drop that story in the comments. I read every single one. And if stories like this one mean something to you, you already know where to find more of them.